Hey guys, I am back with another recap of Falling Skies on TNT. This week's episode, Season 1, Episode 8, What Lies Beneath. So the episode starts off with a dream sequence featuring Captain Weaver going about his backyard, I assume, and all of a sudden he gets attacked by a skidder and wakes up. Of course, we knew this wasn't reality, because action is not Falling Skies' game. We then head off over to the makeshift hospital area classroom at JFK High, where they're talking to Pope. He's with the team again, thank goodness, because this week he has the best line in the history of Falling Skies. And that is, while they're talking to him, they're like, hey, isn't this the guy who attacked your unit? And he says, that is so 3 weeks ago. Why can't we get more lines like that? Gosh! Had to wait 8 episodes for something that good? Anyhow, I also noticed that he got a Skitter finger necklace also. Yeah, TNT didn't send me anything this week, so I'm just gonna have the Skitter fingers here, and I could have wore the hat too, but the bill puts quite a bit of shade out on me, so not good for lights. Anyways, the general, I guess, he wants someone to build a bomb so that they can hurry up with this attack plan. He says the Skitters are retreating back to the big cities. And he'd heard this from like Los Angeles and New York, whatever. And so there's this big base thing in Boston, and they're planning to attack it. You need someone to build some explosives. They introduce him to Pope, who smarts off a little bit, thank goodness. And Pope is in charge of designing some bombs for second mass. Okay, that's great. Weaver sees that Rick is nearby, of course, listening in on this, which is probably not a good idea, because being the weirdest, harnessed kid, he may be somehow communicating with the Skitters, hey, there's an attack coming. I don't know. I'm just saying it's probably not a good idea to have little kids around during your little strategizing. He's doing some therapy stuff. He's doodling. And Weaver sees one of the doodles and is like, hey, where'd you get the idea to draw that? And Rick gives him this picture. And that comes into play later. In a bit of a surprise, even though there's no telling what direction this show's going, Weaver's judgment is called into question by Tom. Tom and his recon unit are gearing up, and he starts saying some things like, I don't know if we can trust Weaver anymore. He's acting kind of weird. You guys get the sense too? And of course Weaver listens in on this, says, hey, Asian guy, you have to get off the recon team. I'm coming with, in your spot. And then he has to justify this saying, well, I worked as a contractor, so I know a few things about structural rigidity, Tom, and I'm going to be going with you. They head out, do a little observing with whatever they've got on hand, binoculars, camera, and they're talking about how the big base of the aliens is made out of just reclaimed materials. They're real big on recycling. So they've got stuff they found from Earth that the harness kids were wrangling up. That's what their base is made out of. They then observe some Skitters being directed around. They look about and they're like, hey, what's that? And there's these tall, silvery, thin aliens that look kind of like the creatures that you see in like AI, artificial intelligence. In that movie, it's not real certain if those were aliens or robots, which is kind of interesting, but it looks a little bit like that. I'm just going to call them tall ones. A tall one, okay? Skitters and tall one, mech. And these things are bipeds, so they've got 2 legs. The mechs have 2 legs. Maybe that's where this mech 2-leg question that came up in episode 1, maybe that's where that dies, hopefully. Now the recon team's headed back, and on the way they spot a lady who is starting to shoot at them and says, hey, you one of them? And they're like, hey, we're not Skitters, we're talking, we're humans. And she says that vandals have been terrorizing the city and whatever. Long story short, Tom, Hal, and Weaver they get to talking to her. Tom and Hal head up to her apartment. Weaver's going to stay watch. They go up there. She talks a little bit about her situation, says she never left the Boston city area, and that well, that's not entirely true because she was in a camp, and she says she was let go. She was there with some kids, and they let her go because she's old and useless. And so we have her telling this, and then all of a sudden you hear the bikes take off, and Weaver has just left, and he's rigged Tom and Hal's bike so it don't work right. He's fled off. Then Tom decides that now's a good time to kind of explain where he may go. And this comes into play later because the old woman has overheard them. And now we're ready for the week's big reveal because TNT, we know drama. Dr. Glass and Lourdes go into a secret room and dissect the skidder that she originally killed. And they're looking through it, not finding a whole lot, and then they spot it. A harness inside the skidder. So whatever it was, it may not have originally been a skidder. I think a lot of people have come to this conclusion already that it's a possibility the kids grow into skidders. That's probably the most original thing the show has going for it thus far. However, it's really not that big of a deal because the kids are gone. They take the kids, they convert them to skidders. Yeah, whether the kid's taken or not, he's not with you, so they do want the kids, right? And at least it's for something more worthwhile than scrap metal gathering. So either way, the kids, you lose your kid, he gets turned to a skidder. Maybe we could have got that a little earlier. Maybe should be a little bit more to be yet seen. Maybe, I guess that's cool, but if you have an intelligence of let's build spaceships and stuff so we can convert things to more skidders, I guess just so that we can do that more, okay. So then we've got 5 minutes of show and 5 minutes of commercial break. We come back and Tom and Hal have descended upon Weaver's house, which they were able to find, I guess. Weaver's out there getting liquored up, talking about his barbecue pit, and what do you know, he says, I want to leave the team. I didn't tell you guys that I had a daughter who got taken from me. I found her, and she was harnessed, so I did the logical thing, and not being a surgeon, decided to surgically remove the harness improperly, and she bled to death here. I don't really want to be with you guys anymore. Head on without me. Oh no! A mech shows up. So, now we've got a mech over here ready to kill everybody. Weaver's like, Tom, you and Hal, you guys go ahead. I'm gonna provide some cover. Go on without me. That's not entirely true. They set a bit of a trap. Weaver shoots his grill, which causes a small explosion. And then while still shooting the mech, Tom sneaks up behind it and puts some explosives on it. And explosives go off and kill it. The gunfire should have killed Tom. He was like right in the way of the machine gun fire. I don't... Weaver's a heck of a shot. I'll say that for the old guy. When it comes to shooting mechs, you need Captain Weaver, apparently. Now Weaver says, well, you guys were set up. That old lady followed you over here and all this stuff, and I'm back on the team. I'm still Captain Weaver. I like this next part because the transition here goes straight to the old woman's house. She's looking through the peephole through gunpoint. Tom, Hal, Weaver are there, and she's communicating, talking through the peephole of her door in her apartment. And they push her out of the way to see who she's looking at. And what do you know? It's Karen. Is that her name? Yeah, Karen. Karen now has a harness. Oh, you don't know who Karen is? She's the blonde chick who half-heartedly fired like an AK, got captured, and then basically was written off the show. Not mentioned ever again. Oh, it's so important that we rescue Ben, but, well, let's not even talk about Karen. That's pretty much been what the show's been about. So Karen's over there, she drops some food off for the old lady, turns around to exit. Of course, Hal's freaking out about this. They look through the peephole again, and there's a big one, okay? Remember the vocab word there? Big one is the tall, like 8, 9 feet tall alien guys, skinny, silverish. He's looking through, trying to see what's in there. Alright, so I guess he's not the smartest. Maybe they don't have ears. Whatever. They say, look, old lady, you want to come back with us? And she's like, no, I'm just going to chill over here. So the recon team heads back to JFK High, where Pope, who was supposed to be building explosives, and he was fiddling with a mech's gun, and he found out the secret, okay, that if you make a bullet out of mech metal, which I guess the mechs are made on the distant planet of wherever the aliens come from, you make it out of their metal, and it's all of a sudden an explosive round, which is very reasonable, because I know that I have skin, and whenever I punch someone, like in the stomach, my hand just goes through them, creates a small explosion in the process. You know, because that's what happens when you roll up on something like that. And that's pretty much your Falling Skies for the week. Where's the show heading? Well, at least we've got some new aliens to look at. Maybe they'll have some intelligent conversation we might get pulled in on. There was no Jimmy sighting, no army kid this week. Maybe he got sent off and got lost somewhere, hopefully. Karen, who didn't actually have a character before, is now back for us to not care about. So that's very welcoming. Also, I guess we should be pointing out here that I've got a new mic. So I've got that working for me, and I've got a new lens for my new camera. So let me know what you think about the way this all works, okay? I've got an early review of 30 Minutes or Less coming up, and then on the weekend, I think maybe that new Planet of the Apes, which looks heinous, is coming out, and also the Change Up. So one or the other, both, neither. I do have one review already coming up this week with 30 minutes or less, but I guess that could be next week's review. So this is probably a 2 review week. Okay? See you guys next time.